An idea can be sparked by a moment of inspiration. But making that idea come true takes time and hard work. It evolves, molds into shape, and grows. It spreads its wings in a flash, carried by the winds of inspiration. It travels from region to region and across borders. The idea moves from one mind to another, from one hand to another, drawing inspiration from each group's new input. In a heartbeat, the idea comes to life and takes flight. Soaring higher than anyone could have dreamed, even its inventors. Ideas bring us together. We work together to make them reality. Together, we create change.
Présence à vous.
Mais en même temps,
A lot of things were said to be.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to welcome you
to this session called 5 Things You Need to Know About ICT Luxembourg. We are pleased to welcome two persons who, through their career and their current position, can talk to us about this subject which interests us all. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a virtual welcome to David Foy from Luxinnovation. David, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Kamel. Thank you very much for that eloquent introduction. As Kamel said, my name is David Foy, Luxinnovation. We are the National Agency for Research and Innovation. Our main goals are to assist local companies go through their digitalization and growth process, but also to attract companies into Luxembourg that can bring value-added products to the local community, or simply use Luxembourg as a test base to enter the European market. So, as the session is called today, 5 things you need to know about ICT in Luxembourg. I will just share my screen with you. Let me see what that looks like. I hope we're okay there. So I'm going to show 3 of the 5 things that we're going to go through today, and then my co-speaker will come in with two additional points afterwards. So I would say one of the main points of Luxembourg's digital economy today is really to try and diversify the economy. So the diversification of the economy is there to attain sustainable growth. Why sustainable? Because there's no real resources in Luxembourg. I would say that the largest sector in Luxembourg is obviously the financial center. We hope nothing is going to happen, but you know, it's a very strange world we live in. It could be that one day something happens and we need to make sure that we've diversified the economy. How we're looking at diversifying that today is through our digital innovation strategy. You can see the 3 pillars of this strategy in front of you today. The first one is to boost and assure the digital infrastructure capacity. When we talk about infrastructure capacity, it's very much, I would say, the hardware, so data centers, connectivity, and things like that. When we went through the first lockdown at the beginning of the year, the estimations were that the consumption of internet traffic increased by between 30 and 50%, depending on which operator you were looking at. But not just the increase in the capacity, but also diversity in where that was being consumed. So I would say that the main consumption areas moved from the business parks out to rural areas. And without the investment in the infrastructure that has already happened in Luxembourg, such as the fiber to the home project, that really wouldn't have been possible. The second pillar that you can see here at the bottom on the right-hand side is ensuring a strong regulatory framework. That's one of the points that I'm going to go through today. I would say that without a strong regulatory framework, it's digital chaos. I mean, we talk often about you know, security of data and trusted hubs. We really need to make sure that we're following that from a regulatory point of view. I can see Antoine's just taken control of my slides. Can you go back up one, please? There we go. Thank you. And there we go. And the last of the 3 pillars you can see here is experimenting, innovation, take up of digital technology. So that's very much the support infrastructure that we have around Luxembourg. So be it from research and development, be it from startups, it's really giving people the opportunity to use their innovation, use their digital know-how, let's say, and apply it to industrial or business purposes, and even allow them to fail and learn from that. So if you can go to the next slide then, please. We can see on this slide the 6, what we would say that the priority sectors of our innovation and digital data-driven strategy today. So if we take Industry 4.0, for example, An example of that would be very much digitalization of industrial processes, such as Goodyear with the Industry 4.0 factory, which would be entirely automated. Husky going through a digitalization process. They're active in injection molding. And there are several other examples that we can give today. And that is also supported by the government and by Luxinnovation through the Fit for Digital and also other entities within Luxembourg. The idea of helping people go through these these processes is to help them go up on the value chain, but also there's giving back to the economy in the form of data. So everything that becomes automated or industrialized, there's always some sort of data that's being produced, and that can be given back and used by the rest of society. If we go quickly, health tech, for example, I mean, that's very much on the radar at the moment with the current events. There are many new projects coming out, not just in mask production, but also in federating companies. There are some companies who have certain parts of a puzzle. So we're actively introducing them to people who have other parts of the puzzle to make a solution that can help society today go through this very strange period we're in. Logistics, Luxembourg, center of Europe, I mean, from air cargo, road cargo, train, etc. That's the physical logistics of it, but also the digital side for digital supply chain management, etc. Space, financial services, we won't go through all of them. And ICT really being the foundation in the center of all of this. So if we can go to the next slide. Now I can start my 3 points. We're going to get there in the end. So I'm going to talk to you about support, the infrastructure of support, what we have in terms of support for startups, and then finishing up with the legal framework that brings all that together. So if we can carry on to the next. So when we talk about support, it's very much helping people helping people, I would say, fine-tune their products and services, be it through assistance with the algorithms in artificial technology, be it through biomedical research. And you can see on here, for example, SNT. SNT is the research arm of the Luxembourg University. They're very much active in digital technologies as well, in cybersecurity, IoT, you can see on this slide here. LIST is very active more in, I would say, materials, compounds, environmental research, Institute of Health, and the LCSB, obviously in biology and biomedical research. If you could just hit the next thing. Okay, and then at the bottom, we have very much our, I would say, our support structures that help bring all of this together. So the Luxembourg Digital Innovation Hub, which is just over a year old now, is there to help people go through digitalization processes, mainly in Industry 4.0. So it's not just helping people go through that journey, but it's also detecting whether or not there is a journey to take. So it's helping identify a project and then assisting with the milestones and the identification of resources, be it technical, be it human resources, not just in Luxembourg, but also across Europe. Security Made in LU, SMILE for short, they are our cybersecurity people who are very active in threat detection, but something very important is also threat communication. So that's not just in Luxembourg again, that's very much Europe-wide, and I would say even worldwide. Once you get into cyber world, you know, there are no borders for that anymore. Lux Provide, which is also quite a new entity, is the company that is commercializing the high-performance computing installation that will be coming online Q1 of next year, part of a European-wide high-performance computing network, giving access not so much to academia, but also to small, medium businesses. And again, going back to the Industry 4.0 and digitalization, a lot of the data that's being generated there, so it's in industry, but also in near-Earth observation, all of that information can go into there, which will already enable companies to come in and consume high-performance computing resources with the data lakes that are behind them. The GovTech Lab is a very new initiative. So this is the government technology laboratory, which is there primarily to digitalize public services. And if you take a look at the website, there's a call just gone out recently for a project called Bye Bye Robot to help distinguish between human interface and robot interface when people are authenticating themselves. And then ESRIC, which is the Space Innovation Center, also launched not too long ago. But these are all parts of a puzzle that help companies come into Luxembourg, or companies already within Luxembourg, find the right people to work with, find the right projects. And this, together with the networking in Luxembourg, it really is a very powerful tool. So a lot of support from all of these institutions, and even by combinations of these institutions that we have here. Can we go to the next slide? So here we're talking very quickly about the startup ecosystem. So if you go back 6-7 years, I would say this slide would have very little, if not nothing, on it. So the startup ecosystem has really boomed over the last years. From institutional startup support, you can see on the left-hand side, through Luxinnovation, through the House of Startups, which is run by the Chamber of Commerce. In the center, you can see incubators, accelerators. These are all run by different companies, be it Polworth, be it Société Générale, be it Vodafone. And each one of them has their own flavor. Loft, for example, is the Luxembourg House of Financial Technologies. Technoport is very much more industrial. 1535, creative industries. So each one has its own flavor and its own support infrastructures. In the center, you can see some of the companies in Luxembourg that are providing programs and services. If we talk for Luxinnovation, for example, we have many different programs called Fit for Digital. We have Fit for Resilience, which is born from this crisis that we're in at the moment. And then we also have Fit for Start, which I'm going to show you a slide on just afterwards. On the right-hand side, we have the events, Pitch Your Startup, ICT Spring, a very big annual ICT event in Luxembourg, Arch Summit, which is very oriented startup. So if we can go across to the next slide, we will be able to see the acceleration program that is run by Luxinnovation. So this is very much just a very quick example of one of the programs that we're running to support startups. This is a pitching competition. Usually we have over 100 companies that apply. We select 60 to 80 of them that come and pitch. And then we select between 15 and 20. You can see here the last 2 editions, we selected 25 startups. They get a cash grant, 50,000 euro. Then they go through a coaching period. And if they graduate, they'll get some more cash at the end of it. So it's very much an acceleration program aimed at helping the startups come into Luxembourg that are selected based on how they will integrate and the technologies they're bringing. But I would say that one of the main takeaways from this program is the networking possibilities and opportunities that those companies have. If we go to the next slide, you'll be able to see some of the companies. Not all of these came through our Fit for Start, but obviously, these are startups that were born and raised in Luxembourg. You'll be able to see some names that are possibly familiar. Talkwalker at the top there has become quite a success story, and there are many others. Obviously, it's not that easy to read, so I'm sure these slides will be available afterwards. If you go on to the next slide, please, which I believe is my last one, very briefly on the legal framework. So in Luxembourg, we're very lucky in that the government understands technology. So quite often we'll see in jurisdictions that innovation is slowed by either legislation that isn't adapted or legislation that's based to slow it down until somebody understands what it is. Whereas in Luxembourg, because the government understands the technology, they can put in place legislation that drives that business, that drives innovation. Some examples of that, obviously, we have the data reversibility legislation that came in some time ago, which enables or guarantees that your data won't be lost should you have issues with your data supplier, if you're a cloud consumer, for example. We have Digital Embassy in Luxembourg, where we take the backup of a country's data and we store it in our data centers here. Maybe the next speaker will have a word about that. But also data exchange platforms. So under what circumstances can we exchange data? Does it need to be anonymized? Can it be pseudonymized? Can never pronounce that word, I apologize. Under what conditions can it be bought, rented? How to give that data back again? How to prove you're using it under the right circumstances? So there's a lot of framework within Luxembourg, and it's very much similar to, I would say, passporting within the financial industries. Once you are, I would say, legal in Luxembourg, you would pass any of the legislation requirements of any of the other member states of Europe. So we would take already the base regulations and then add onto there to make sure that we remain a trusted data management hub in Europe. And I think if you go on to the next slide, that is pretty much it from my point of view. I think open, dynamic, reliable is very suiting to the current situation. Certainly remaining open during this pandemic, being dynamic with the solutions that are being brought to the table. And I think reliable is one of the subjects that Jerry is going to bring up next. So with that, I will close my speech and pass over to Jerry Probst, International Business Development Manager at EBRC, who hopefully will take you through the 2 points that I missed.
I will. Thank you, David. Thank you for the kind introduction. So indeed, I'm International Business Development Manager with EBRC. EBRC stands for European Business and Reliance Center and is a one-stop shop in the management and protection of sensitive information. So let me see if I can change the slides. Here it goes. So David just told us about what we need to know about support, startups, and legal framework that ICT companies can benefit from in Luxembourg. And this brings me now to our fourth point. So the fourth thing you need to know about ICT in Luxembourg is about know-how in digital information and ICT expertise. I do not want to go into the many advantages that Luxembourg has to offer being a AAA rated country or having the highest GDP in the world, as this is not the topic of this session. But some of these facts, like being a safe and stable country with a very high or with a very international mindset and culture, are key to attract talents. David just told us about the digital innovation strategy. So the research and the exciting ICT projects taking place in Luxembourg are for sure a reason why Luxembourg has the highest share of high-skilled workers in the world. Actually, I was surprised to find out that Luxembourg is number 2 in the world in attracting talents. We also have the highest density of ICT experts in the EU. And that's probably not because of our weather. It's more because we are the most multilingual country in Europe, or because we have a strong know-how in finance that the 140 banks and always growing number of fintechs can benefit from. That combination of expertise in finance and ICT is a key enabler in digital IT transformation in finance. Open banking platforms, for instance, benefit of the EBRC cloud and DevOps ready-to-use platforms to be quick on the market, agile, and to reduce costs. The government's digital strategy and quick policy adaptations enable Luxembourg to lead the market with new solutions and innovations. The fifth thing you need to know about ICT in Luxembourg are infrastructures. Luxembourg has state-of-the-art infrastructures, and I will name 3 of them that ICT is relying on. First of all, electricity grids, data centers, and connectivity. In terms of connectivity, Luxembourg is the best connected country in Europe. We are located in the center of the golden internet ring, enabling very low latency to important cities as Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam, or Paris. More than 30 carriers with international networks can offer 27 fiber optic routes in and out Luxembourg. And in times like these, where many of us are working from home, together with the whole family, using many simultaneous internet streams like this video conference right now, we are actually very lucky that Post Luxembourg is deploying fiber to every home nationwide. But fiber to the home is not doing much if you have no electricity. But here again, Luxembourg has the most reliable electricity grid in Europe. This is because it's mostly underground and redundant. The grid is interconnected with both German and Belgian electricity grids. Smart meters have been installed nationwide, allowing to better control the supply and demand of electricity, which is quite useful with regard to the upcoming electromobility. Green electricity is also key. All 5 EBRC data centers, for instance, run with 100% green energy from renewable sources. So surprisingly, even with these many advantages, Luxembourg still manages to offer the lowest energy price in Western Europe. So we have the best connectivity, the best power grid. Why not have the best data centers and become Europe's digital fortress? Well, in order to be Europe's digital fortress, the focus has been made on security and reliability. Luxembourg has 23 commercial data centers. 8 of them are Tier 4 certified. Tier 4 is the highest level of availability that can be achieved. And these 8 Tier 4 certified data centers represent 40% of all Tier 4 certified data centers in Europe. So in terms of records, that does not only make EBRC being the world's first data center operator to own as many as 3 Tier 4 certified data centers, it also shows Luxembourg having the highest density of Tier 4 certified data centers in the world. And as you don't get to see behind the scenes of a data centers very often, we wanted to illustrate that with, what a Tier 4 certified data center looks like. So we will now be showing a short video featuring a virtual tour.
EBRC, European Business Reliance Center, was created in the year 2000 with the mission of protecting and managing sensitive and critical digital information. EBRC developed its Trusted Services Europe with 6 integrated IT service offers providing the highest guarantees: ISO 27001, ISO 20000, PCI DSS, and Tier 4 for data centers. EBRC directly operates 5 data centers. It represents 17,000 square meters of IT suite in Luxembourg, and we also have further capacity in England, Germany, and Switzerland. This assures us a European coverage. Luxembourg's network connectivity is excellent and provides access to 80% of the European GDP within less than 500 kilometers. The local ecosystem is built on 3 essential pillars. First, know-how in the financial sector. Luxembourg is the second largest fund management center in the world after New York. Second, IT expertise with a high level of security and confidentiality. Third, an economic advantage. The country is stable and has launched an ambitious national digital strategy with high-quality infrastructure, appropriate regulation, and incentives for innovation, particularly in the fintech, space, and healthcare sectors. The fault-tolerant Tier 4 certification issued by the Uptime Institute is the only one to guarantee a minimum availability of 99.995%. This represents less than 26 minutes of cumulative downtime per year. Since 2000, we have been offering a 100% availability rate to our clients, a record. With more than 70 awards, our certifications, and the PFS support status under the CSSF regulation, EBRC ensures its clients' data the highest level of security and confidentiality. As far as the security of our data centers is concerned, 7 control checkpoints limit the access to the IT suites. Each suite has its own access control system. The technical equipment is isolated outside the IT suites, which facilitates the maintenance and reduces risks. Finally, each data center has its own security operating center. Our systems analyze the air to continuously detect smoke particles as soon as possible. They trigger the fire retardant argonite saturation system in the event of an alert, therefore limiting the impact of an incident. In a Tier 4 data center, the power supply and refrigeration systems are redundant. Each IT suite benefits from 2 separate power lines. Luxembourg is particularly competitive in terms of electricity rates. Our data centers are eco-efficient and thus minimize the impact of electricity rate surges. We use 100% green electricity, and we therefore limit our carbon footprint and impact on the environment. EBRC has reduced its carbon emissions by 10,000 tons per year through the use of technical innovations such as Kyoto wheels, optimizing the air-to-air heat exchange, the racks, equipped with corridors channeling cool air to optimize the energy performance, and the free cooling, used and further optimized by pulverized water spray. In case of power failure, a group of diesel backup generators takes over for the power supply of non-IT equipment. Particularly efficient inertial wheel generators power the IT suites without interruption. Emergency diesel backup and cooling water are stored to provide up to 96 hours of operation in total autonomy. Our Earth values, excellence, agility, responsibility, trust, and human, are at the heart of EBRC's activities.
To cope with crisis and difficulties, to be warned about threats and dangers, to evaluate and manage the risks each storm brings, to be expertly guided in an increasingly digital world. Nothing is more important than a solid and trustworthy partner. With EBRC, you can face uncertainty with complete peace of mind. EBRC, your trusted ICT partner.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Jerry, for those good insights. So if you have any question, you can ask them on the chat. For the moment, I don't see questions, but I have question for you, both guys. So probably to David, can you tell me which country is closest to Luxembourg in terms of ICT?
No, I can't, as as an answer. I think if you were to look at Luxembourg and take all of the parts of it, there's nothing that we really do that I would say was unique to Luxembourg. But what we do is we take all of the good parts, all of the best parts, and we reunite them. So let's say, for an example, if you take where our LTIOs are, so our trade investment offices, today we have them a little bit around the world. So if we just take those, for example, one of them is in Tel Aviv, in Israel. So Israel is very well known for cybersecurity, very innovative in cybersecurity. So that would match over to what we're doing in Smile, obviously in a much, much smaller sense, but we're looking more for, I would say, niche markets here than very generalized solutions. So if we took Israel, cybersecurity, okay, they're getting active now in smart cities. They have whole districts that are dedicated to smart cities. We're starting to roll that out now across Luxembourg, both through the transportation and, as Jerry said, through the energy grids. We're looking at building a digital twin of Luxembourg through energy as well. If you look, for example, in Canada, Canada is getting very strong in artificial intelligence. In Luxembourg, 2 years ago, I guess it was now, we opened up the AI research laboratory here together with NVIDIA, and it goes on. So I think if you were to take parts of what's happening around the world, concentrate them into a niche product and put them together, I would say we're very much a standalone country, but with, I would say, the best in class of most of what people are doing, but on a smaller, more dynamic scale.
Thank you, David. So we have a question from Kiran Bagotra. Sorry. How does Luxembourg compete with Southeast Asia on smart cities? So
who wants to answer that?
Singapore, I don't know. So I think he means Singapore or Hong Kong. So
well,
both,
yeah, I mean,
you know, those countries.
Well, why would we compete? I think maybe competing is probably not the right term, but I understand the sense of the word. How are we, replying to what's happening there in terms of efficiency, in terms of economy? And like I said, we talk about the smart meters going out. I mean, that's really the bottom of the value chain of smart cities. But I think one of the main differences, and possibly something that might slow it down, and we spoke about legislation being an accelerator for innovation. There are certain areas where in Europe it's very much dependent on, I would say, data privacy. So a lot of smart city solutions are based on recognition of people, recognition of movement, identification of gender, identification of ethnicity, if that's the right word. And I think that really is something that's slowing down, I would say. Not slowing down, but being a little bit more wary in Europe. That is changing. But I think you'll find that the solutions that they have, for example, in China today, are perceived to be so much more advanced, but it's very, very based on facial recognition, identifying who, when, where, and what. So that, I would say, would be one of the points here.
Okay. So the guys told me that it means Singapore, but it's okay. So Okay, so he said that when I say compete, for us companies that are looking for partners in spaces like smart cities that have a long lead time, why would we pick working with Luxembourg over Singapore when all the factors you mentioned, age, gender, ethnicity, etc., are greater in Singapore, etc.? So
I would say really legislation. I mean, we're subject to GDPR here. And as far as I'm aware, Singapore isn't subject to GDPR. But if you're talking from, I am a manufacturer of smart city equipment, solutions, whatever, why choose Luxembourg? For all the reasons that we said before. You can bring your product to Luxembourg. You can fine tune it for the European market. You can make it multilingual. You can make it, I would say, legal across all of the European Union in a very quick way. People here are very dynamic. The city of Luxembourg, they're actively looking for people or companies and solutions to roll out. You can test them here. You can get grants from the government to help you go through the R&D to make it compliant. So yeah, I mean, there's many reasons.
thank you so much. So Kiran, thank you, Kiran, for the question. She was a woman, sorry, I thought that said he, but it's she.
I think if you have a look just here, there's my email address. If you want to go further into details, david.foy@luxinnovation.lu. I'd be more than happy to go into greater detail with you.
Perfect. So probably another question for Jerry. Jerry, you were talking about a tier 4 data center. For people who don't know, what is it? Can you explain it briefly?
Yes, of course, indeed. Not everybody is familiar with these certifications. It's delivered by the Uptime Institute based in Seattle, Washington. And actually, I have a slide that I could share with you to illustrate the different tiers. Okay, so this should be helpful. This shows the different tier levels going from 1 to 4, 1 being the lowest level, 4 the highest. And maybe I can illustrate it with an example. So it's all about availability of a data center. You know, a data center needs to be secure, but it also needs to deliver power all the time and to deliver cooling to the servers. So it's measuring that infrastructure level. If you need, for instance, 10 generators to produce the electricity for a whole data center, then a tier 1 data center will have none. They don't have any generator, they just have batteries, giving them a few minutes of power, time enough to maybe shut down the servers, and that's it. A tier 2 data center will have then 10 generators, so they can offer the electricity that is needed even though there is a power grid failure. But they cannot afford to lose any of these 10 generators because otherwise they don't have enough power. That's why we have the tier 3, because they have 11 generators, 10 plus 1, meaning that they can afford to lose 1 generator and still be up and running, or having 1 unit in maintenance and still have the 10 available in case of a failure during that maintenance. And then we have the tier 4, and that's a whole different story, because a tier 4 data center will have at least 20 generators, so twice as much as needed. Actually, with the BRC, we have 2 times n plus 1, meaning we have not 20, but 22 generators in this example. So basically, we could lose 12 generators and still have enough to run the whole data center properly. This is just to illustrate you the big differences into these different tier classifications and why there are so few tier 4 data centers in the world. Because it's very expensive to build and to maintain, of course. So you won't find very much of them throughout the world. And we are very lucky to have 40% of all the European tier 4 data centers in Luxembourg. So we are really differentiating ourselves here with a high quality product, I would say.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Jerry. Another thing, so we have no question, but I have one question for you both. What is for you the main asset for Luxembourg? So we know that we have foreigners, people from abroad, follow us today. So could you, if you have one thing to show an asset from Luxembourg, what will be the best thing? And David, I know that you are from UK, but you are a new Luxembourgish citizen. Probably you could explain what is why Luxembourg.
A very proud Luxembourgish citizen for the last 2 months. It's taking me far too long to do it, but yeah. I don't think there is one thing. Like we said previously, you know, Luxembourg really is it's a sum of many parts, and it depends what you would like to do, to which part would be relevant to you. If companies are coming in to Luxembourg looking to enter the European market, I think from a cultural point of view, Luxembourg is very interesting. I'll give an example. If you go into Germany, you hire a German salesperson. It's very difficult for a German person to sell to a French person, and vice versa. It's not just the language, but it's also the approach and the culture. Whereas in Luxembourg, I'm not saying you have to hire a Luxembourger, but the people that you find here, by definition, they already speak many languages. They're already subject to those different cultures. Being an English person, that's not a very good example, because, you know, we come from an island and English is that, you know, that's what we are. If we go on holiday, we speak English, and if you don't understand, we'll speak English louder, and that will normally get us through. So from a cultural point of view, you know, in Luxembourg, we have 200,000 people every day who come across the border. So they're coming from Germany, France, and Belgium to work here. Almost half of the population is foreigners. Almost 3/4 of the workforce is foreigners. So from that point of view, I think it's very interesting, and they bring different visions, different approaches to problem solving. I think from the ICT point of view, we've gone through the two presentations as far as funding, as far as support. Networking is really a big thing here as well. It's universally seen as people have 6 degrees of separation between them. So the whole planet is related within 6 degrees of each other. I think in Luxembourg, it's probably 1.5 degrees. Everybody knows everybody in Luxembourg. Which is very good, because I mean, the question we had earlier from Kieran, you come to Luxembourg, if I don't know the answer, I know somebody who does. It's that simple. So integrating, being able to advance your project, being able to get to the right people, even at a ministry level. You know, we can go and talk to the people at the Ministry of the Economy, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Digitalization, all of them within minutes rather than within days and weeks. I had a company come to see me once, and they said, I'm interested in setting up in Luxembourg. My first question was, why do you want to come to Luxembourg? And their reply was, we don't. We want to go to Paris, but we don't know who to talk to. So within a couple of days, they'd met everybody here, and they'd set up their business, and they were very happy from that choice. So, I mean, it's very much taking the right piece that fits for you, but being aware of those other pieces that are around as well.
I just want to jump in on that, because the language is indeed very important. I didn't always realize that, being a Luxembourger and growing up in that environment, it feels very natural. But if you are in other countries outside Europe, talking to potential customers or companies that want to establish in Europe, actually they often look to the UK because of the language. Very naturally, oh well, we will set up in the UK because we feel good in speaking English, and that's where we will be comfortable. And that changed now because of Brexit also, because if you want to be present in the European Union and still have that advantages of widely spoken English around you, Luxembourg is the closest to that, I think, and that has been now recognized. So we see that really that multicultural environment is a huge asset.
Good. So I think that we have a few minutes again. So if you have an advice for people who listen today, if you have any advice to them in terms of ICT, if they want to establish a company or if they want to do more business, etc. So, what would be this advice for those people?
From my point of view,
Yeah.
So from my point of view, is obviously it's one of my main missions to attract companies into Luxembourg, either, as I said, to add value to the local market or to enter the European market. And we see all different types of companies and all different types of sectors, because digital obviously touches all the verticals. And we often see people going it alone. They'll come to Luxembourg and they'll get in touch with the local authorities to set up their company and what have you. That's fine. Do that. If that's the way that the people want to go about it, that's fine. But there are so many support structures in Luxembourg. So if you come to Lux Innovation, we can help you integrate into the economy, integrate into whichever sector you're going into. We can call upon one of our sister companies, so the House of Entrepreneurship, who can give you advice on what structure to create, provide you with the documents to create. If you're a startup, we can introduce you to the House of Startups or one of the several other ones that we spoke about. It's fine to want to do it yourself, but sometimes it's so much easier just to ask for help. And if you want to come into Luxembourg and you want to just to come and see what's happening, take a look around, meet the people, discuss your project, see what is open and available for you in terms of partnerships, in terms of grants, etc. Then you've seen my email address just here again, david.foy@luxinnovation.lu. I'd be more than happy to talk with you. Or you can go to the Chamber of Commerce. You can see the organizing this event today. So my piece of advice is come and have a look, test it out, see what's happening, see what is there for you. And it might not be a right fit. If it's not a right fit, at least you had a look.
Great. Jerry?
Yes, and actually, if it's not a right fit, we might make it fit because I think that's another strength that we have. We were talking about this before, but it's really that agility that we can show, being a small country and with all these contacts and having people that know the answer. That really helps, and we invent ourselves continuously. So I think the biggest challenge is to get the word out and to do things like we do now today, to tell about it, to get Luxembourg known. And as David said, if you come to Luxembourg and if you invest a little bit in getting the information and then there are solutions.
And to copy two words that you use a lot at EBSC, I'd say that Luxembourg is a trusted country and a resilient country too. And when you say agility, it's more than agility, it's anti-fragile. So I don't know if you know this concept from Nassim Taleb, who says that it's more than the resilience. So I don't want to copy your words at EBRC. I know that resilience and trusted, it's one of your main topic and the main words that you use, but it's exactly this. So I join you both for those things, and thank you so much. I don't know if you want to add something, probably David or Jerry, or to conclude.
Let's make it happen.
Exactly. Let's make it happen. So thank you so much. Thank you guys. Don't forget to connect all the day for the different sessions on the B2 Fair program. And don't forget the speech of our Minister of Digitalization, Mr. Mark Hansen, tonight for the inauguration of the IT1 Gala. I'm sure that you will, I think, learn few things. And if you are interested about the lab of what they can do, they have this announcement, they can explain what is GovTech Labs, and it will be interesting for you. Thank you so much, and see you all the day.